Artemis Fowl is directed by Kenneth Branagh and is the adaptation of the book series, which was written by Owen Colfer. And in this movie, this combines the plots of the first two books, the first one being titled Artemis Fowl, and the second one being The Arctic Incident. And in this one, Artemis Fowl, a young boy played by Ferdia Shaw, is looking for his father, Artemis Fowl Sr., played by Colin Farrell, who's been kidnapped by some magical creature who is holding him hostage until he finds an artifact. And then he meets some other allies who are also magical creatures like Mulch, a dwarf, played by Josh Gad, and Holly Short, played by Laura McDonnell, who's a fairy. I'm actually a fan of the 8 books, and I've been waiting for a while for them to try and adapt this to the big screen. I'm surprised it took this long, because this book series has been out for years now, and they tried to make this movie happen for quite a long time, and now that it's finally happening, fans can see it, and hopefully it all works out in their favor. Although, given the track record of certain film adaptations like this, it's always a very tricky slope. And now that I've seen this movie, I'm starting to understand why Disney decided to put this on Disney Plus as compared to some of the other films that were supposed to be theatrically released and then got delayed. Because, ladies and gentlemen, and it gives me absolutely no pleasure to say this, Artemis Fowl is probably the worst live-action YA adaptation since Aragon. I actually think it makes Percy Jackson look like a bona fide masterpiece in comparison because... boy. I have absolutely nothing in this film that I can look at and say, that's good, that works. Even the visuals, some of them, okay, there's a couple of moments that look pretty decent, but aside from that, I mean, I've seen this before. There's nothing about it that looks super striking. The entire film is just such a hodgepodge of things, and it's so messily made. And the sad part is, Kenneth Branagh is a good director. I've seen some of his stuff before. I even liked his last film, Murder on the Orient Express, which a lot of people were a little up and down on. I thought it was a nicely done, old-fashioned Agatha Christie movie, and it served its purpose, and I want to see Death on the Nile. I think the stuff he's done for Disney, Cinderella, was really good, and the first Thor is actually a fine enough movie. I mean, I was actually watching it the other day with a friend, and we were actually kind of enjoying it. It's a 95-minute movie, and frankly speaking, it's just, there's too much either crammed into it, and then eventually it turns out to be a zero-sum. There's nothing to hold on to in this movie. There's no character that's done well. Ferdia Shaw, who plays Artemis, this is his first ever role, and I feel so bad for this kid because according to what I hear, he's a big fan of the books and he tried to do his best he could with the movie, and I think he's trying. He's really trying to make this material work. Unfortunately, the script is doing him absolutely no favors, and he comes off as a bit stilted. They try to cram in so much, and eventually there's nothing from the books that is adhered to. I feel like this is going to be one of those things that, you know, maybe the casual moviegoer will watch and enjoy, but based on what I've heard, even the casual moviegoers aren't liking this. I could honestly do a 20-minute video of everything that they've left out from the books, and it just doesn't help this movie's case. For example, Artemis. Artemis in the books, right from the get-go, is a boy genius. He's a criminal mastermind. He is so good at this, he manages to intimidate even the most senior men and women, and he's very cold and calculated. There's nothing like that in this movie. There's never a moment where you can tell this kid is smart as hell because he's essentially being spoon-fed everything. Your father did this, that's why you know this information. His dad in the books actually doesn't know anything. Holly in this is one of the biggest missed opportunities over here. And it's not something that really that bothers me. I mean, like, I'm fine with Judi Dench as Root, but in the books I really like the idea that Holly was the first female officer and she had to sort of earn her way up the LEP, and it made her character very remarkable. Like, as you see the rise of this character, so she begins the first book, she gets kidnapped by Artemis, who, by the way, like in this movie, that kidnapping happens and it's for 2 minutes, and then after that she's just let out and they're like, all right, we're friends now, boom. It took half a series for them to become friends, and including a memory wipe. Like, if you read the books, you know what I'm talking about. My biggest issue with this movie is that they tried to go for a new approach, and frankly, I have no idea what they decided to put back in there. Because There's nothing in place of it. They've taken this whole new approach to it, but it feels so derivative and uninspired and such a convoluted mess that I'm just honestly wondering, why didn't you go with the premise of the first book? Why couldn't you have just gone with that? Or better yet, why didn't you just do a TV series off of this? You're gonna do one with Percy Jackson. In fact, just seeing the fact that you're deciding to do a TV series about Percy Jackson, and seeing that those movies were not well received, that should have been a green light that maybe this is not the best idea. But I guess the movie was already made and then they decided to release it. But now that it's done, I'm hoping that their next step is to just do a TV series, because that would work so much better and it would give these characters a lot more weight and depth. Josh Gad as Mulch is probably the only thing in the movie which is like, all right, that's not so bad. He's having fun with the role, and they do get the part about his eating dirt and farting thing from the books. That's fun. That's in this movie, so that's nice, I guess. Does it make up for the whole movie? No, it really does not. And I know the eternal debate, which is, hey, why are so many people upset over book adaptations when they get things inaccurate, but they make changes in comic book adaptations all the time? Because comic book adaptations are easier and more malleable because there's not one artist who's worked on them. Over time, many different artists and many different writers work on those characters. And so there are different iterations every time. Take a look at this poster. Like, is that the Joker you remember from the comics? No, because it's a completely different version of this character. So there is a lot of different stuff you can do with comic book adaptations. And as long as it fits that universe that they're making, that's fine. In the case of book adaptations, you're adapting one person's work in an established world. This is it. There's no other writers that have come in and said, hey, we have an input. It's what it is. In the end, honestly, this movie is one big miscalculation. This is a really, really bad effort. I don't think this will please anybody. I don't think casual moviegoers will be pleased. I don't think fans of the book are going to be pleased at all. I felt the same way after this movie as I felt after watching the Dark Tower adaptation. Both of them are about 95 minutes long, in fact. And both of them are the same thing. You cram in too much, you completely forego the material, and they're both messes. Dark Tower ended up in my worst movies of 2017 list. And there's a very good chance, in fact, more than likely, Artemis Fowl is going to end up there too. And just like the Dark Tower, I'm going to give Artemis Fowl an F. There is absolutely nothing redeeming about this movie. Watch anything else this weekend. There's a lot out. The Five Bloods is out. I'm going to be reviewing that next. The King of Staten Island is out. Saw that. Pretty great. I'll talk more about that in a review. Shirley is out. Just Mercy is free for rental. Like, get that. See anything else. I cannot recommend this in any good thread. But if you're somebody who is curious, and if you like the film, if you enjoy this movie, don't let me basically take away from that. I don't want to completely cut off fan base that did enjoy this movie, or the base that does enjoy it, because you never know. There might be some enjoyment that little kids will glean from this, but not for me personally. Thank you very much for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the movies.